Breaking today, Thomas Markle Jr., the brother of Meghan Markle, has responded to new reporting from P-Dina about Prince Harry's health and addiction issues. Now, P-Dina is with us today, so she can give us all of the insight directly. But first, I want to have a look at what Thomas Markle Jr. has said.
Okay, so apparently Harry was found unconscious by his well-known longtime personal friend bodyguard, unconscious, and apparently overdoing something. Yeah, and he had to be rushed to the hospital. Well, if I had to take one guess at this, it would be that maybe Meghan and Doria cooked up a little something on the stove along with those bath salts, and maybe left it for Harry. Maybe Harry's no use to Meghan anymore. Maybe the divorce rumors are actually true. Maybe there's no money in the settlement for the divorce. Wow. Let's make a new Netflix series and story out of Harry's demise. Ooh. First of all, the day that she takes his claws out of Harry's back is the day hell freezes over.
Wow, P-Dina, what do you make of it?
It just sounds like he is onto something. I know this has been something that a lot of people, myself including, with other YouTubers did. And it just seems like Megan just does not care about her husband. She doesn't care about how he is doing. He seems, yeah, to not be doing very well. And Megan is concerned about her career, her as ever, and what is important to her. And I wouldn't put it outside the realm of possibility for her to be preparing to make a case for herself to be in a stronger position. You know, to put Harry under a bus, because that's what she does. She knows how to look after herself. She's not someone who is known to really care about other people and what they want. She never puts herself in a position to support and compromise and to, be the person that's put on the back burner and, elevate someone else. That is what she has done in the past. That's what I believe she continues to do. And Harry, by reports that have been out there, is not doing well. And if my husband is not doing well, there are stories about this. I'm certainly not going to be focusing on a business. I'm going to be focusing on my husband in the media, them talking about him not doing well, because obviously something is going on. So, you just see Megan becoming more and more into the social media, more and more about her as ever, and talking about launching new products and, doing all these things. But yet, the story around Harry is completely different. That in itself tells you how Harry is doing, okay? And how Megan just doesn't care. That's what I see.
So, P-Dina, is your contention that these drink and drug issues, which have plagued Prince Harry since he was a young teenager, have not gone away?
Absolutely not. I mean, you have to ask yourself this question, Dan. Why are the reports that he's not doing well? Well, what about Harry is not doing well? Why are all these stories coming out by legitimate reporters, royal experts saying things so you don't get a lot of clarity. You don't really get concrete information. You just know he's struggling. He wants to go back to the UK. He's not well. Well, what is the story behind that? I think because of the drug issue. I believe Harry has used something or is doing something that he himself has told us he does when he's not well. He resorts to doing things to help numb his emotions because he doesn't know how to cope. He's never been to a rehab where he had to address his addictions. He's never been in a position where he's overcome all the trauma that he has gone through. We know he's talked about being in therapy, but where has he really addressed his issues around substance abuse? And it's gone, or he's still struggling with it. As a matter of fact, Harry continues to boast about it in his book Spare, he talks about it. He talked with Oprah about it. He went on with a professional psychologist and talked about it and sold his book Spare. This was his MO always from the beginning to talk about how he uses and he does this to cope. This is what he did. So why would we think it's any different now? Why? It's the same thing. He is coping because this is a man who is alone on an island. How is he able to address the things that are happening to him now when he doesn't have his family? His wife could care less. He has no friends. He is trying to still look like he's doing his work, his travel list and all this, but he's not coping well. And we know he's not used to coping well. It makes perfect sense to me.
P-Dina, Paula M, the YouTuber, posted on this week, respected royal reporters, expert reporters who are still around, bringing you the truth with their excellent sources, sold you Prince Harry as a lovable, cheeky prince when they knew what a nasty piece of work he was. So tell me again why these MSM experts would not cover up Harry's overdose or drug addiction and only claim he is melting down. And I do understand the point that she's making, P-Dina, although I would also argue a lot of this is going to be to do with privacy. A lot of this is going to be to do with the very strict laws, especially in the United Kingdom, around disclosing health information. It's going to be a lot to do with the fact that Harry has already taken many of these newspaper groups, which are already financially suffering, to court. But I would say, where's the American media, P-Dina? Like, where's TMZ on all of this? Because those limitations do not apply to the American media.
I think there are sources in the media in America that just may be helping to cover up things because we know that TMZ has done things in the past to help and support Harry and Meghan, and it just wouldn't look good. It wouldn't be good for this to happen. Harry is still somewhat, I believe, being protected. We know that the governor has even come out and spoken about their charity when it wasn't necessary for him to do so. I think that they are just complicit in trying to make things seem on the down low for Harry. I mean, imagine this coming out, and we have all this immigration going on with Harry right now with the Heritage Foundation, and that just opens up a whole new can of worms for Harry, and it just would not look good. It would be really bad for, I think, the royals. I think things are just covered up, and that's just how things are, and they're not reporting on it because they're doing that. They're covering it up.
Yeah, and I would just say, because look, I do think TMZ is compromised, actually. Now, I think we've got to be honest about that. And one of the things that we do in the independent space, P-Dina, and one of the things that I always promised that I would do on Outspoken, when I first launched Outspoken just over a year ago now, was the exclusives that the Royal Rota will not cover. Now, I know a lot of people will be saying, well, why is TMZ compromised? TMZ is not part of the Royal Rota. But TMZ, P-Dina, is owned by Rupert Murdoch. It is part of News Corporation. It is part of the same body as The Sun and as The Times. And trust me, I worked there for numerous years. And if an order has come down on high to just go easy on Prince Harry, then TMZ will have to follow that order. They do not have editorial independence, no matter what Harvey Levin might say, and I know he's a very good journalist in lots of ways, but at the end of the day, he is not independent. He still is part of the Murdoch empire. And I also know, P-Dina, from my own connections there, that there has always been this real fear about Harry's mental health. And they don't want to be blamed if something goes wrong.
Right. I mean, I think it could go really bad really quickly, depending on how he would react to it. I think it's a very serious thing. and it needs to be addressed. And I can only imagine that the king is concerned about his son, no matter all the problems that they have with, privacy and everything, and, things that have been said. At the end of the day, the king is a father. And so there is still this connection to royalty. And, I can imagine if my son were going through something similar and he did things to make me upset, I'm still going to be there in a way that is not very public, but also trying to, give that tough love, but still concerned, because you have to look at the fact that Meghan is a woman who, she has reduced men that we've heard in reports to tears. Like, she has done some really horrible things. And I think finding or being with someone like Meghan, as cold as she can be, as we've heard, that cannot do well for Harry's mental stability. And I think this is a time when he needs someone the most, especially a wife. And I just don't believe that Meghan is the person that is going to be there for Harry. As a matter of fact, I think she's going to make things worse for him because she doesn't care and she's consumed about all these superficial things when this man is just going downhill very quickly. And people should be very concerned about him. I mean, I'm not sympathetic to what he has done. I think he needs tough love, but at the same time, he is a human being that is having problems and he needs help. And I think Meghan is just making things worse. It's just really a bad circumstance. And this is just what I believe from all the other things that I've seen.
I mean, probably
It's what
what Prince Harry really needs, P-Dina, is a conversation with Trevor Engelson, who knows exactly what it's like to have their life destroyed by this woman, but also P-Dina knows what it's like to come out the other side, to come out happy, to start again. I mean, I actually think Harry should look at Trevor Engelson with a sense of hope. I mean, he's got his lovely new wife, he has his children, he has the private life that Harry claims he's always desired.
I remember when I spoke to Thomas Markle, he talked to me about Trevor and how difficult it was for him. And I was just so broken when I heard that. I was like, how can you do that to someone? And so imagine someone like Trevor, who was devastated, completely broken as a man. And think about how perhaps Harry is now dealing with that, with his mental health, his stability, being alone in America, having no one. Trevor was in America. He was in his element. He was in an environment where he was able to pick up and, okay, move on, despite the fact that he was broken at the time. But Harry is a completely different circumstance for him because, yeah, I believe he is broken and not doing well in a foreign country with, nobody to help him. I think his finances are hurting. I think he is also put himself in a position with other things that he probably hasn't even thought about. I mean, I was just thinking about the birth certificate situation with Lilibet and how his name, his legal name, Dan, is not even on the birth. Is a very important document to claim that you are the father of a child. His title is on the birth certificate, and I don't even know how that even happened, considering we don't acknowledge titles in America. It seems completely odd that his legal name is not on that certificate. That opens up another whole can of worms for this man. I mean, the Sentabali issues going on. You look at, I mean, it's just a compounding of things. Tyler Perry now, like the person who helped you, you're not saying anything. It's like one thing after another. This couple is finding themselves in a PR disaster. Everything is crumbling, and you are that guy in a foreign country trying to deal with it by yourself. I think it's disaster for Harry right now.
P-Dina, this brand new cover of Us Weekly is also going to be devastating for Prince Harry. Remember, this is the magazine alongside People, with this new editor of Us Weekly, Dan Wakeford, a former ally of Harry and Meghan, who Harry and Meghan thought they had won over. Not so. You know, last week we had People magazine with Catherine on the cover talking about her poise as a queen in waiting. This week, Us Weekly has turned. And let me just read to you this cover line. Harry and William, worlds apart, a future king preparing for the throne, a prince in America searching for purpose, The brothers haven't spoken in years, and their lives couldn't be more different. Now, P-Dina, look, they try and say that Harry's happy in this piece. I mean, they're quoting Amanda Matter, saying he enjoys the freedom he didn't have as a working royal. He's parenting on his own terms. He can go on bike rides or date nights without the British press tracking his every move. But it's like, come on. We know that what's killing Harry is seeing William conduct this service that he would have been expected to conduct, especially when it comes to the armed forces.
Absolutely. Harry has lost his purpose. And I can tell you, anybody who cannot find purpose in life, they struggle. They struggle with the whole meaning of life. And I can imagine Harry is struggling with, what is his life's purpose? And he sees his brother doing it so successfully. He sees a model that he wants to emulate and he can't. And I think that is torturing him. I think he is in a position that he is of his failure by seeing what is happening across the pond. And I just think Harry has put himself in a position where he has to look like it's okay. He's happy. He's got his children. He's saving face right now. Who wouldn't want to save face? We time when we post on social media, we want to show the good things, the good life. Who's going to post the bad things? No one wants to see right? No one wants people to see that in them. But Harry is in a position now where he is the one who was trapped. He talked about his brother being trapped, but now the realization is that no, he is the one trapped. Because like you were saying earlier, he needs to see his future in someone like Trevor because it can get better for him. Because I think the more he stays, the more he tries to cover up and look like all is well, the more is being collected on how it's not so well on him. And that information will be used against him later. He needs to put a stop to the reality and he needs to start making some changes no matter how difficult it is. And we always say, usually when something is difficult is usually the right thing to do. It's easy to just act like all is well. Okay, it's okay. Trying to, act like nothing's wrong, but the most difficult thing to do is to change your circumstances so that you don't continue going down this spiral. And I think that's what Harry needs to do. I think he needs to put a stop to what Meghan is doing, trying to put the kids out there all the time. He is definitely against that. He doesn't want the children being used as pawns. He doesn't want his children being used on social media to help make money. But that is exactly the purpose of Meghan Markle. And this man has not been able to put his foot down for this woman because she is the one who is ruling and telling him what to do. And he's not dealing well with it. Based on what I believe has happened to this man, of course that happened because what do you expect when you have a woman telling you everything that you have to do and you can't say anything? You don't even have a say in anything. And when you see your children, every day that goes by, they are losing a connection to royalty. They are losing the connection to their cousins. They're not going to have these memories growing up about when they were younger because a lot of times our connection to the people that we know and love comes from our childhood. I know when I talk about my life with my cousins who I have good relationships with, it always goes back to when we were kids and how when you did this and when we did that and having these like-minded experiences and doing things together. These children will never have that. They will not have it to the most famous family in the world. The resentment that these children will have when they get older. There is real problems that are going to come up later in life for Harry. And he can make it stop. He can put an end to it. I think he needs to look after himself so that he can help his children later. Harry needs help. And vicariously through Harry getting help, he will be able to help his children and make a better future for his children because the future that is being created and crafted by their mother is going to destroy the children. It is destroying Harry now as we speak, and it is not going to fare well for this family. I can tell you that, and that's how I feel and what I believe and what I've heard and what I've been told for certain things. Okay? So just put it together, okay? And you can make sense of it all.
Very well put, P-Dina. I do want to take you through some of this new Us Weekly reporting because, again, I want to contextualize this. Us Weekly is a pro-Harry and Meghan magazine. And even they are struggling, really, to paint a good picture of what's going on in Harry's world. But let me take you through it. As I say, this is just out, this week's cover. 5 years, after Harry's departure, there is lingering resentment. Harry left a large gap in William's world, not just personally, but practically, explains the insider. The whole idea was for Harry to work hand in hand with William and to divide and conquer during William's monarchy. So Harry not being there is tough. He feels deserted by his brother, not that he would ever say that out loud. Matter says, this is the commentator, Amanda Matter says, that while William isn't jealous of Harry's new life, he has borrowed a page from his younger brother's playbook. We've seen William take selective time away from the public eye to protect his wife and children, carve out personal days, and assert more control over his platform. It's a quieter, more measured version of Harry's break. And I mean, P-Dina, let's just interrupt there, because can we just call bullshit on that? The idea that William is copying Harry, like this is desperation, Us Weekly. William has been doing this since he was married to Catherine.
Right.
When Harry was still a wild bachelor. William is not copying Harry in any way. William looks at Harry's life with disdain. And again, like, I understand what they're trying to do, but it's just not going to fly.
Right. They're trying to make the American public look at Harry as like he's free. Oh, good for Harry. He's doing it. Even his brother wants to be like him. That's the American narrative that we're seeing here. But, we follow this. We get it. We know William has been, doing what he's doing with, his wife. He's been married a lot longer. He's got a great relationship, I believe, with his wife and his children. And, there's just a sense that William, we get him. We understand that he is somebody that he's compassionate. He's living his life the way he was raised to live his life in terms of being the future king. And he's got a sense of family. He loves his wife's family. He finds even normality in that as a regular family life. But I think William is so attuned to his own life and what his purpose is and what he is doing and his love for his wife and his children and giving them the good, values and things that they need to be prepared for in life and raising them in a way that's healthy. Perhaps what his mother had to go through. So, William has the answers. He has it right. He's doing it in a way where he's even the one setting, the standards for how it's going to be, saying that his monarchy is going to be completely different. He's making choices and decisions that are like nobody else or trying to copy anybody. And we can see that. That's all nonsense, what they're trying to say about Harry, because Harry needs to look like it's all good for him. Because guess what, Dan? It's not good. You have to make it look good. That's the job of the press, this magazine, to make the man look like he's doing great and everything is well. Because I can imagine it's Meghan's one that should craft this. I've always talked about it on my channel. Megan's behind her computer crafting and, putting things together, painting a picture, paint the pretty picture. That's what Megan does. So what makes us think that she's not doing it for Harry now? Forget Harry and what he's really going through. We got to make it look good,
Totally.
And that's what's happening.
Totally. And she always has. She's always written his scripts. But what's interesting is, again, remembering that Us Weekly, a pro-Harry magazine, even they are admitting, and I'll read you out this passage, P-Dina, for Harry, there are regrets, not about leaving the firm, but about all that was lost in the shuffle, including his relationships with William and his father, many of his old friends, as well as his military titles and his patronages. They quote from Marlene Koenig, the royal historian, saying that Harry has yet to figure out his next act outside of royalty. He hasn't been entirely successful, especially in terms of earning money for the family. That seems to have fallen on Meghan. So, again, this is a pro-Harry magazine admitting he does have regrets about leaving the royal family, not because he's left, but because of everyone that he's fallen out with. But actually, that 5 years after Megxit, he still has no idea about what life he's going to lead. And these are his allies.
Yeah, because he listened to that woman. He listened to her, and she's the one that told him what it's going to be. He would not be in this predicament if he didn't listen and, was the one that was setting the rules and like what it's going to be. I mean, she's the one that got all this started. All he has to do is look to his wife to understand why he doesn't have a relationship with his family. I mean, look at her relationship with her own family to understand that she's the reason. So Harry just doesn't want to wake up to the truth, to the reality, because it hurts him. He doesn't want to do it. He always wants people to think that Meghan was like his mother when he doesn't even remember what his mother was like. He's been alive a lot longer with his mother dead than when he was younger. I mean, his life is in shambles. Okay. This woman has turned it upside down for him, but for some reason, he can't seem to see that she is the problem. I don't understand why he can't see that. I think perhaps maybe in the back of his mind, there might be little cracks of him seeing that, she is the problem, but it hurts too much to say, she's the reason. So let me just say no. Let me just look here for that to be the reason. You gotta face the truth, even if it hurts. You gotta look it in the face and you gotta say what the problem is, because that's the only way you can get to a better place. And Meghan has been, doing things for Harry that have not been good choices for them at all, way too long. And this is why Harry's in the position that he is in now. It's Dan, it's really, really bad for Harry, I believe.
Yeah.
I think this is the problem. Meghan is the problem why he
Yeah.
doesn't speak to he needs his family right now, more than ever now. Okay, with the
Yep.
purpose in life that he has none, it just makes it so clear to me that his life is not going to, do well if he doesn't have purpose,
Well,
like
it's
he's
almost like
always
he's
been looking for
begging
that.
for an intervention, but that intervention isn't going to come because they've given up. And actually, let me just take you through the last portion of this Us Weekly cover, which is sort of the summary of where things are at. And the magazine admits the distance between the brothers continues to grow wider. The more time passes, the more William and Harry seem to be settling into their respective lives, says Amanda Matter. She says there's no open contact, just radio silence. Richard Fitzwilliam tells them the siblings are not in contact and haven't been for a while. And the magazine says for now they're forging ahead on their own path. Matt adds a formal return to royal life for Harry feels incredibly unlikely, especially if we're talking about William offering his brother a way back. The trust isn't there. William and Harry are separated by more than an ocean. There are no plans for a reconciliation. They are two brothers living very separate lives. And of course, P-Dina, that backs up what we've been reporting for a long time. But again, I just stress what is significant about this is it is coming from Us Weekly. It's coming from Dan Wakeford. This is the editor that Harry and Meghan thought they had on side. This is the guy they talked to. But the story is now just too tragic that it can't be denied. It can't be denied.
Thomas Markle Jr. just said out loud what millions of people have been thinking for years, and the fact that it's coming from inside the family makes it impossible to dismiss. This isn't a royal commentator. This isn't a palace insider with an agenda. This is Meghan Markle's own flesh and blood, pointing the finger directly at her and her mother Doria Ragland, and saying, Harry's collapse is on them. When your own brother calls you out by name, on camera, that's not a family squabble. That's a verdict. Let's be clear about who Thomas Markle Jr. is in this story. He's not estranged by choice. He was pushed out. Meghan didn't just distance herself from her father. She quietly erased an entire side of her family, and Thomas Jr. has been watching from the outside ever since. And what he's seeing now, he's saying Prince Harry is a man in freefall, and the two women closest to Meghan are the ones holding the parachute she decided not to give him. Think about that framing for a second. It's not just Meghan. It's Meghan and Doria. That's a specific and deliberate accusation, pointing to a unit, a dynamic, a household where Harry has no real power and no real voice. Thomas Jr. isn't speculating. He grew up watching how this family operates. He knows the patterns. And he's telling us, what you're seeing with Harry right now is not a coincidence. Now here's where this gets really interesting, because Doria Ragland has been the untouchable figure in this entire saga. The media gave her a free pass from day one. The quiet, dignified mother. The yoga teacher. The woman who stood alone at the Windsor wedding while Thomas Sr. clutched his chest in a hotel room. The narrative was written for her, and it was flattering. But let's ask the question nobody wants to ask. What has Doria actually done for Harry? She moved into that Montecito mansion. She is present in that household. And yet Harry, by all visible evidence, looks like a man who is utterly alone, isolated, hollowed out. If Doria is the warm, nurturing presence the press has sold us, where is the evidence of it? Because the man living under the same roof doesn't look nurtured. He looks managed. Thomas Jr. is essentially saying Doria isn't a support system for Harry. She's part of the infrastructure keeping him contained. That phrase, no use to her anymore, is the most devastating line in this entire story, and we need to sit with it. It implies something deeply transactional about how Harry has been treated. That his value in this relationship was always conditional. That as long as he was useful, delivering Netflix deals, Spotify contracts, memoir revelations, Invictus access, he had a place. But the moment the returns started diminishing, the moment the American public started tuning out, the moment the brand started cracking, now we're watching what happens to people when they're no longer useful to Meghan Markle. And we've seen this before. Her father, her half-sister, her childhood friends, her first husband. The pattern is not subtle. The pattern is consistent. People enter Meghan's orbit, serve their purpose, and then disappear, either by being pushed out or by being so thoroughly diminished that they fade on their own. Thomas Jr. is saying Harry is next. Or rather, Harry is already there. He just hasn't been formally discarded yet. The health angle here is the one that should concern people the most. We are talking about a man who, not long ago, was a decorated soldier. A man who flew Apache helicopters in combat zones. A man who founded the Invictus Games and built something genuinely meaningful from his own trauma. Where's that Harry? Because what we're seeing now is someone who looks depleted, who makes erratic public statements, who loses legal battles he was warned he couldn't win, who is reportedly estranged from every single member of his family of origin, who has no visible male friendships, no professional structure, no institutional support. That doesn't happen in a healthy environment. That happens when someone has been systematically separated from everything that once grounded them. Thomas Jr. is naming what a lot of Harry's former supporters have been quietly thinking. This is not a man living his best life in California. This is a man who traded everything, his family, his country, his identity, and is now left standing in a house that isn't really his, in a life that doesn't quite fit, next to a woman who may have already started writing him out of the next chapter. Here's the question Thomas Markle Jr. has just forced into the open, and it's one Meghan cannot answer publicly without destroying her own narrative. If Harry is struggling, and you're right there, what are you doing about it? Because silence on that question isn't dignity. Silence is confirmation. And if Thomas Jr. is right, if Harry truly is no longer useful, then we may be approaching the moment this entire Sussex project finally collapses under the weight of its own contradictions. The real question isn't whether Harry is in decline. The real question is, who benefits most from it? Drop your answer in the comments, because I think you already know.